This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the UK's #1 coral selling website, coral-auctions.co.uk and reefdork.etsy.com for all your 3D printed aquarium accessory needs. YouTube! Hello everybody, welcome to the Prestige Reef Dork Show. Today we are going to be talking about a video that got flagged to me. I hadn't seen it. It was from a guy called Aquarium Store Depot, who was kind of expressing some frustrations about the saltwater hobby, or talking about things he didn't like about the saltwater hobby. So we're going to talk about that. He made some really good points. I think I've watched it a few times. I've thought about it. There's more nuance to some of it, and I think he's all right. He's not wrong on any of it because it's his experiences. But there's some things I don't agree with. But there's some things he's absolutely spot on. Spot on.
Yeah, I've also seen the video, obviously, and I agree. There's definitely some things he's spot on with. But we want you to interact with us during this live stream. So we are going to have polls on each of the topics to see if you basically feel the same way as him and the same way as us.
Yeah, that's going to be a massive admin pain in the ass for me, but we'll do it.
Okay, we're not going to do it then. I thought literally 5 minutes ago you said yes, so I've told people. I
know, and then I looked down the list of stuff. So the things that I'll run through very quickly, the list of things that he talked about that we'll go into. Okay. It's first off, it was money that has what was the thing on the thumbnail? It was consolidation. So like the BRS aperture takeover, all that sort of stuff. There was fish diseases, which he says are more prevalent these days. The grip that Reef to Reef has on the community, conservation attitudes towards conservation restrictions. He said the saltwater YouTube community is exhausting. We'll go into that. Captive breeding.
He's talking about you guys.
Captive breeding, designer corals, ethical issues with some saltwater YouTube content, gadget worship, live rock, and how that used to be better, and then the arrogance of saltwater.
Okay.
But this what I should say is this: when I first saw this, I was like, oh no, this is just going to cause a load of drama, isn't it? But actually, I don't think it needs to. I think it's going to be cool. We can just have a chat. And there are a few things that if you haven't seen the video, I've linked it in the description. You can go and watch it later. He's not like, this isn't like a rage. God, everything's awful. He's just like, I just wanted to talk about this. I just wanted to get it off my chest, basically. So it's not like he's not.
You can sense the frustration, I would say.
Yeah, completely. But he's not saying everything's awful. He's just kind of a bit frustrated, is my impression of it.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to him, obviously. And he's not saying that there's no hope, everything's gone or whatever. It's just his views. He's expressing what he's grown tired of, is what I've put. And there is an element of most of what, or a lot of what he said is everything was better back in the day. And that, to be fair, I'm not saying he's wrong. That's probably true of everything. So
everyone thinks that things were better back in the day.
Maybe it's rose tinted spectacles. Yeah.
Because my nan says the same thing. She's like, "Oh, everything used to be better." I'm like, "What? When like polio was around?" So I'm not sure that everything did used to be better. There may be some things that used to be better, but not everything.
But I think there's an element of that in the video. But yeah, we'll talk about all of that. And because there's so much to go through, I think you could probably spend an hour on each of these topics. We're going to bin off all of the usual
nonsense.
Yeah, basically, and all of the usual features. So we're not going to do fish of the week, coral of the week. We're not going to do we'd still do member questions, but there aren't any. The only member question was, have you seen this video? Which I hadn't seen. So thanks for flagging that. Who was that? Off-Grid Reefer, I think it was. Off-Grid Reefer. Yeah, thanks for alerting me to the video. So there's no member questions. There's no fish of the week, all that. There is news, though. There's quite a lot of news. So we'll get to that still at the end.
Some of it's actually quite exciting news. And with regards to the corals, isn't it? I would say.
Yeah.
And like, I've only seen that in one place, which means if you haven't read that one website, you probably don't know about this.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Actually, a couple of the shops posted on Facebook, didn't they? That's so.
Anyway, stop spoiling everything, Ryan. We don't need that.
Sorry.
And there's a correction, because one of the things in the news last week was wrong.
Yeah.
So I need to
not down to me.
Not down. Well, here we go. Just throw me under the bus straight away. So I need to correct the mistake I made. It was an understandable mistake, but but still inexcusable, and I will discipline myself immediately after the live stream. So,
okay,
rest assured. Anyway, Ryan, you're all right. Have you got anything that you wanted to talk about first before we get into this?
No, it was interesting because at the start of the week, we were doing a nice, easy, light-hearted live stream about coral. And then all of a sudden, 2 days ago, it's like, bam, we are doing this. And I'm like, oh, interesting. So, let's get straight into it.
Fine. Yeah, great. Okay, so the first thing on the list was money. And he was talking about consolidation, so private equity, basically, and the BRS thing. A lot of this, by the way, is a US YouTuber. It's very US centric, and so there are some things that we see from the outside, but it's different when you're in the thick of it. So we won't have the same experiences, but we still talk about it. BRS, he said that BRS used to be this plucky guy who everybody liked, or plucky company that everybody liked and was cared about the community. And then Ryan got bought out, basically. BRS Ryan got bought out by private equity, and private equity, all they do is buy stuff up, squeeze value out of companies, and focus solely on boosting profits. And what he said was, when the people making all the gear care more about the margins than animals, the hobby suffers. So this is the first one that I think he is spot on with. What are your thoughts on this, Ryan?
The first thing I want to say is that I don't have a negative view that Ryan sold BRS. Like,
oh no, what, from his point of view?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
No, I just think it's important that people know this, because, like, I remember at the beginning that people were annoyed they'd done it, but you have to live your life the way you want to live it, if you see what I mean.
If someone offered you X million pounds,
I'm sure it was plenty of money.
Exactly, yeah. If you want to buy, if Aperture Pet Life want to buy Reef Dork, the channel, for 10 million quid, sign me up. I'm sorry if that means it goes downhill.
But you see what I mean? So I don't have an issue with the people that sell these companies doing it. And I feel
it's a shame, but it's absolutely entitled to do it. Yeah.
It definitely, I agree that sometimes things change, and BRS definitely the YouTube channel changed. Now, obviously, Serious Reefs is still around, and it actually feels a lot more like the old BRS. I find. I don't know if you agree with that. You're not listening, are you?
Say again. Sorry, I'm trying to see. This is the thing. I try and type up your bloody poll that you were.
Oh, I see. I now know when you're typing, I won't interrupt you. So, the Serious Reefs obviously feels a lot more like the original BRS, so that still exists.
Yeah.
But I feel like the old BRS is basically gone. So there is a negative view of that. With regards, a lot of people got really mad about this. I will be completely honest with you, and people might be annoyed by me. I don't care. I actually don't. I think you care more than I do that companies buy each other. That's just what people do.
It's not. So it's like, if companies buy each other, they're fine. It's just that it does have an impact. That's all I'm saying. But the other thing is, and we talked about this before, is this was in America, so it doesn't affect us like that. It doesn't affect, if I buy something online, I don't know. There's no difference to me whatsoever. If you're in America and you buy something, there is a difference. So there's no impact on us. So.
See, I'd be interested to know what the impact has been with BRS, if there are any Americans listening. I understand that the YouTube channel couldn't really continue because Ryan was like the face of the YouTube channel, and to have a YouTube channel, you have to have a certain like rapport with your audience. I think do you think that's the right way? And the people that tried to take over didn't have that same. Who's the guy that he worked with that went to go the other YouTube channel?
Randy. Yeah,
he actually, to some extent, I don't think he was as good as Ryan. In my opinion, I always preferred Ryan. But I think it's just difficult. He was
brilliant.
Yeah,
and as soon as he left, everyone was like, he was actually really good, wasn't he? I think people underestimated how good he was.
And I think they probably spent a lot of money doing experiments and stuff like that, which the new company, well, I say new company, the new BRS don't do or aren't interested in. So they aren't building the hobby as much. What I will say, I think you're going to say things usually get more expensive. If things got cheaper, no one would care. Do you agree?
Well, as long as they weren't getting worse, yeah.
Okay, so
But that's
what's
the
your
whole
opinion
point.
then?
That's the whole point, is that private equity doesn't make life better for people. All it does is it squeezes all of the value out of the product that it's buying,
Yeah,
and then creams all that off and sends it up to rich people. And then you get all us plebs down here getting shafted, basically. But the plus side is these companies are still carrying on,
yeah,
and they're still making cool things that we like. It's just things do get worse over time.
yeah.
So that's
Reefing,
all there is to it. That's not a controversial opinion. That's how private equity works. It's what it's designed for.
does it never
There's
get better? I don't know enough about it. You see, does the situation never get better?
So to be fair, if I've done a very small amount of research into it, but that's the way it works. I'm not saying that things aren't still good. It's just
Yeah,
private equity isn't designed to make life better for customers. If that's a byproduct, then great, but it's designed
yeah,
to squeeze as much value out as possible, basically.
yeah, yeah.
And
Okay.
that's a story for the news later.
Well, reefing addictions, I'm assuming they are American because it says BRS isn't what it used to be. The service has gone downhill as well. So maybe you're right. The other thing that I can tell you from experience. So I obviously worked for my father's company for 14 years.
Mm,
When you are either the owner or related to the owner, you have a different level of care. I think it's like personal,
mm.
and for Ryan, it probably was personal, whereas for the new people, it's probably not personal. So
No,
that's why
completely.
when the level of service goes down, because if
They
things
don't
aren't
care.
personal, it's you don't go that extra effort, is what I'd
Yeah.
say.
If you're not invested in it mentally and emotionally, which is
Yeah,
a bit of a wet way of saying it, but if you're not invested in it emotionally, you just look at a spreadsheet and you just push pawns around, basically, don't you? See, and they also, the other thing it does is because you, like, say BRS bought out Marine Depot, and
yeah,
then Aperture Pet Life bought Marine Depot and BRS and all the other, so they start they take over everything, and then
yeah,
there's no competition. So,
yeah. True.
and competition is very much good for customers in terms of innovation, price, everything. So that's what you get. So, and this was always going to be the way, but the poll was going to go. But is private equity making the hobby worse? Yes, 79%. God, no
Yeah.
one likes private equity, basically.
I say
Apart
there's
from
some of these things
shareholders.
I will have plenty of opinions on, but this sort of comes with equipment and stuff like that, and it doesn't like triggers anything inside me for whatever reason.
Well, then we'll
but
move on, because
is there a
there's more.
potential positive that if one massive company, they must have more money for research than lots and lots of smaller companies?
I don't know. What? Show me what's happened. Show me what's changed that's
Yeah.
changed for the
Yeah.
better.
Okay. No, I agree. I can't win this one.
No. But anyway, we're going to move on to fish diseases. So, because Ryan wants a poll, because he's a
Yeah, I'm
diva.
interested.
Are fish diseases
Better or worse?
now than 10 years ago? And so the thing that he talked about with this was that he was saying that fish diseases, fish can, and this is in America, don't forget, by the way,
Yeah.
fish condition is worse now than it was 10 years ago. And you get velvet, brook, and uranema much more common than they were 10 years ago, when 10 years ago those were quite rare and you might see it occasionally and fear it, but now it seems like it's a lot more prevalent. And he talked about that being down to there's more stress on fish, on supply chains, low dosing of copper, which creates resistant strains of these parasites, and that's apparently been verified by Humble Fish. I've not seen that, but that's what he said. So all of this means that fish health is worse than it was before. Now, I've heard people talking about that, particularly in America, British people who've been to America and have seen it, and they say that the fish health is worse than it is over here.
Yeah.
In terms of, but it's a little hard to actually talk about that specifically, because he's talking about America and it's different. But in terms of the stuff we see over here, it's hard to tell. I think if you had to push me and say, is fish health better or worse now, I'd probably say worse, because you get more diseases, because I feel like anecdotally I've seen more. But
I agree. But is that because we obviously had diseases more recently that we feel that way, or is that actually a fact?
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't think I would say that the supply chains are probably less stressful. I don't think they're more stressful than they used to be.
Here in particular, TMC work hard on one of their key things, and they never talk about this publicly. It's one of the things that I just guess maybe customers don't care about. But one of the things they're really good at is making supply chains as short as possible.
Yes,
and that is what helps keep fish healthy. So I think in the UK we get good healthy fish, and I don't go in. Well, to be fair, I'm lucky. I've got a good shop, Reef Keeper Moss End, who really care for their fish. But I never go in and see fish looking ill and like covered in disease or just fighting with each other or whatever. So I don't see that. But this is a very limited sample size. So
yeah, I know at Moss End you have copper in their water. I know that, so that potentially is why that you don't see that there. I'm 99% sure they do, because I remember Ed might have even mentioned it on the live stream we did together. So that would be potentially why. One of the things I wonder is, and this is just a theory. Back in the day, we used live rock for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I genuinely believe that makes a healthier tank environment, a non-sterile tank environment. And I do think that disease is worse these days, because potentially if a tank has dinoflagellates in it, for example, they're toxic. Is that affecting the fish to some level? So you see, but then again, also food probably has got better potentially. I don't know if that's true or not. But nutrition, we know more about nutrition, for example. But 10 years ago, you fed him mysis and that was it. Or brine shrimp. I didn't. Yeah. So nutrition has got better. So I would say that it's probably the quality and the condition of fish, I would say it's probably about the same for us, because some things have got worse and some things have got better.
So in terms of live rock is another part of something he talked about, which he is absolutely spot on. But we'll talk about that later, because that kind of leads into that. I'm
really interested in the poll for this one, because this will tell us how many people are having disease issues. Because you're not going to say yes. Is
worse now than 10 years ago. And bearing in mind, some people won't have been in the hobby for 10 years. And even so, I've been in the hobby for about 12 years. Yeah. I can't really remember closely in great detail what fish diseases were like 12 years ago, 10 years ago. Yeah. Anyway, are fish diseases worse now than 10 years ago? Yes, 35%. Hey. So
the other thing I think that could be having an impact is that we are far more willing to push the envelope, push the boundaries of things. So maybe 10 years ago, the advice, or I know literally 20 years ago, the advice was you have 1 tank per tank. Now people have 10 tanks in a tank sometimes. Is that causing some level of stress, which could promote some level of disease? Or especially when you add a new one as well, like that.
I think there's much better information around now than there was on fish care, particularly with people like BRS Ryan, who's done with Elliot, who's done loads of fish care guides.
Yeah.
I think there's much better information on that sort of thing. So you've got less excuse for, you're more likely to have success basically, because there's more useful information out there. Fish nutrition is better understood, I think.
Yeah.
And people.
I'm talking about things that potentially are directly affecting, like if a fish is more likely to have disease if it's stressed. So if you have a load of tangs and you put a tang with it, tang before, or it was the only tang, that stress is reduced. The thing that I mentioned specifically in the video was the everyone is using copper these days is what he specifically said, didn't he?
Shops, yeah.
I don't know if that does or doesn't make a difference, is the honest answer. I know that is copper and these parasites the same as antibiotic resistance? Is that a thing? I don't know, but some people think it is.
So apparently I'm not, but apparently Humble Fish has looked into it, and he says that is a thing. And to be fair, it's probably been happening for decades, copper treatment. Yeah. So maybe it does do something. I don't know. But it's that's a little hard to say, to be honest, from our point of view, particularly given that we're looking at stuff in the UK, whereas maybe things in the US are worse. I don't know.
It's interesting because Licia said that she thinks disease is worse, and Licia used to work in a shop, I think, for 3 years. So,
Yeah, okay.
And actually, like even at the start of this live stream, you got a new fish, didn't you? And I said, are you not worried about putting in your tank? That's the reason. Like I have that level of fear, which is why everything gets quarantined, whereas it didn't before.
It doesn't get quarantined, does it? It gets isolated.
Oh yeah, isolated. I don't quarantine. Yeah,
but yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I know.
So in answer to the question, you don't have that level of fear.
It's not that I don't have that level of fear. It's just that I've gone back to what I did. So one of the reasons I had a problem in my tank, because I don't know, 18 months ago now, with a white spot outbreak. And this was, so the things he talked about were Uranema. I never see Uranema, Brook and Velvet.
Yeah.
And to be fair, so I had Brook, I think, anyway, I don't know for sure. To be fair, I don't really see Velvet that much. I see white spot outbreaks, but anyway, the white spot outbreak I had was because I got complacent and went away from doing the things that you're supposed to do in terms of specimen selection and care.
Yeah.
And I've now gone back to doing that much better. And I feed my fish much better. I've got UV. I get them from a better source, and so on and so forth. So there's only 2 places I get my fish now.
Yeah.
And they both come from the same place. But anyway, so yeah, I do still have but the thing is, like, if you have an issue, then immediately you're like, oh, I'm scared of this. And then the further away you get from having that issue, the more confident you get. But to be fair, I'm close to the point where I can't add any more fish to that tank anyway. So
see, I don't know if you saw this. I think you did. I've taken the gem tang out of the water box now because it was annoying the Moorish idol. Yeah. And I don't want that continuous stress, because that's what promotes it. So that's where I got the idea that maybe we're doing things that we shouldn't be doing potentially. And just because one person gets away with it doesn't mean everyone gets away with it.
Yeah, totally. And so I don't like, I always talk about how I don't like aggression in my tanks at all. Yeah. And also, so my aquascape, it was a man-made one, but it's really good for fish. There's loads of swim throughs and caves and places to get away and that sort of stuff. So, but anyway, right, next one. And the next one is, I'm not going to go into this one in massive detail. One, because it's a very delicate subject, and two, because I don't really know enough about it to properly opine on it.
I'm intrigued by what this is.
This is that Reef to Reef has about the grip that Reef to Reef has on the community. And the question I'm going to ask you is, does Reef to Reef have a negative grip on the community? In fact, I'll start that poll now. So I am on Reef to Reef. I have an account, but I very rarely
not for much longer.
No, but I very rarely post. I've got a thread on there. I think I've updated it once in the last year. And when I do look on Reef to Reef, that seems like a really friendly place to me. Actually, probably friendlier than the UK forum. Yeah. But to be fair, and we were talking about this before, that some of you'll see sometimes on forums, basically, so the caption on the thumbnail for this was toxic forums, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But the one thing I will say on that is, it doesn't matter if it's a forum, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, wherever, anywhere on the internet, you're gonna encounter dickheads, basically. So it doesn't. So forums and Facebook are no different. There are differences, of course, but you will still get some bad people everywhere. So you're always going to get that. But actually, I think for the most part, and you do get people having ridiculous arguments on Ultimate Reef that just expressing stupid opinions and winding each other up. And it's like, why are you falling out over this? But actually, for the most part, it's a really good place to go for advice. You don't like certainly on Facebook, if someone asks what an Aptasia is, you'll get rinsed and like, oh, you're an idiot, you shouldn't be in the hobby if you don't know that, all that sort of stuff. It's like, hang on a second, you were in that position once. And you get a lot less of that on forums on Ultimate Reef, because it's just, I think they're a bit more understanding and they know.
Do you know what the difference is, though? I think on Facebook, it's usually a fleeting encounter with someone. You'll go onto a forum, onto a Facebook, and you go, oh, what's this? And then someone will go, you're an idiot or whatever.
Yeah.
On forums, people are on there every night sometimes at like or for years, regular people. You see the same names. I'm not actually on any forums. I actually left the forums because I didn't want to deal with any. I don't even remember what it was. I just thought this is not where I want to be. And you see the same people on there, and some of these people don't like each other. Is what I'm going to say, and you can tell they don't like each other.
Some people just don't like people, full stop, and they're quite aggressive almost. so the toxic forum thing, there's definitely an element of truth to that, and But anyway, the point that they wanted to talk about was, or the point that he talked about, this guy talked about was Reef to Reef specifically. And I don't really have much experience with Reef to Reef, but he said that brands live or die based on their Reef to Reef sponsorship. If you're in, you're in. If you're out, forget it. You don't get any visibility. And I don't know anything about the sponsor. I never look at them. But also he talked about, and this is going back a while, but in 2021 there was an issue with discrimination, or allegations of, I should say, discrimination for the LGBT community. And I'll tell you a little bit about, because I've read into it. I was aware of it at the time, but I didn't really pay much attention to it. But I've looked into it and I can tell you what it's about. It's just that I don't really have enough. I don't know enough to talk about it properly, but I'll tell you anyway. So the issue was that there were some people who were getting like their signatures deleted and content edited if they were referring to their sexuality, and it was LGBT sexuality effectively. And there was I think he said that loads of people had their entire history deleted just because of that. And the response from the forum, there was an official response when they said, look, when this all kicked off, and they said, look, this is why we've done it. And I read that response and I thought it was, so I don't know the guy who owns it. So I can't tell you what he's like. I've heard some people say bad things about him. I've heard some people say good things about him.
I met him once very briefly and he seemed nice, but obviously it was a fleeting introduction.
Exactly. That doesn't really mean anything. So you can't really say either way, but I did read the response and I thought it was quite clumsily worded. I didn't think that he did a very good job of it. And I don't know if he'd do it differently if he did it again. But anyway, the issue was that this response said, look, we've taken these posts down because this is a family friendly site and there's no place for, he said, we welcome people from all backgrounds, all this sort of stuff. But there's no place for, we don't want to discuss politics, religion, or what was it, or sexualized content, or something like that, something about sexual nature or something like that. And it's like, is that sexual? Is that a sexual topic? I suppose technically, but not really. It's not like, anyway. So that was a bit of a weird one. And also people pointed out that there was a prayer thread on there, so that's religion. And there was a thread of, because this all kicked off because people were like, are there any other LGBT reefers? And there was a thread on there that said, are there any other women in reefing? And it's like, well, what's the difference was the topic. So that was what it was all about. And loads of people left apparently, and people got fed up because the sponsors didn't say anything about it and all this. But I don't know, it was just that's to me, that's in the past. I don't really want to dig it up, and I don't know enough about it, and it's too sensitive a subject that I suspect no matter what I say, I'm going to upset one party or both parties. So
well, I don't know. This is the first I've heard of it, is the honest answer. As you told me, you mentioned it yesterday, but this is the first that's gone into detail. So
so I don't know, but anyway, the question I've posed in the poll is, does Reef to Reef have a negative grip on the community? And 62% say no. This is probably this live stream is the one part of my channel where most of the audience is British. And just because you're British doesn't mean you're not on Reef to Reef. But if you did the same poll of an American channel with an all American audience, would you get the same answer? But there we go. That's it. The next one was conservation restrictions. An attitude, saltwater attitude towards conservation restrictions. So, and the things he talked about. We
really are in like a delicate territory tonight, aren't we?
This is fine. No, this is fine. He said that people throw tantrums when areas get shut down, and the example he gave was the Philippines. I wasn't
Okay.
aware of a Philippines shutdown. Obviously, Hawaii and Indo shut down a while ago. But did you see areas of Philippines shutting down?
I don't know about this, if I'm honest.
No. Okay. So, but he said it was kind of he like in the saltwater world, when that sort of thing happens, when there's like bleaching events and that sort of stuff, instead of being sympathetic to natural disasters,
Yeah.
the saltwater hobby is like there's petitions, there's campaigns trying to stop it, blah blah blah. And it's like he said like it feels like a hunter who wants to shoot a rhino and saying, oh, I want to shoot my rhino, blah blah, you know. So that's the sort of thing he's talking about. And the point he made was that preservation of stressed ecosystems is more important than you getting a particular type of fish.
Okay, that's easy. That's
Yeah.
obviously, I agree with him.
Of course he's right, yeah.
I think that it works both ways sometimes with this, though. Not that specific topic, but there are some people that are, especially, I would say, there's someone in Hawaii who's very, very against the saltwater aquarium community.
Yeah.
And I remember they made a documentary. It was fun. I actually changed that documentary, which is funny because they did a trailer for the documentary, and in the trailer about the marine aquarium hobby, they had freshwater fish. And I wrote a comment saying, I actually did a video and wrote a comment saying that, like, how can these people know what they're doing if they're putting freshwater fish in it? And they changed the trailer because of that, because so many people were going, what is this person talking about?
So this is a thing, and like the Hawaiian ban, we talked about that. We did 2 live streams where we talked about that. One where we talked about it, and then we talked about it briefly the week after. And actually, that is not, Hawaii is not motivated by conservation, and we need to look at this. Is really bad for the environment, all that sort of stuff. And actually, so we had Brian on from TMC, the Europe's biggest. This is my take, is I think they're Europe's biggest importer of saltwater fish, and he talked a lot about collection and responsible sourcing of fish and all that sort of stuff. And it's not as simple as captive bred is better for the environment than wild collected, because of all sorts of things, you know, the energy that's used, all that sort of stuff. But also they have communities based all over the planet who take care of the environment because they're collecting. And if that wasn't happening, then the reefs would suffer. So it's not, I don't think that is as black and white. And but he said also that in the freshwater world, and a lot of this I don't know about the freshwater world. So I had a freshwater tank for a year or two when I started, before I started saltwater, but I was never really in the community, I would say. I don't think I was on forums. I did go to a show once, like in Middlesex, and they had just a load of people there with fish and stuff. I don't think you could buy anything, but that was good. But I wasn't really in the freshwater community.
You didn't have like freshwater dork then.
Fresh Dork, yeah, exactly. No, I didn't, not at all. You would not have wanted to take advice from me on freshwater. So questionable if you want it on saltwater. But he said that in the freshwater world, when that sort of thing happens, and they do have issues when you get ecology disasters or whatever, their attitude is kind of, okay, let's go and figure out how we can captive breed this, instead of how dare the government take away my fish, blah blah, you know. So that's basically his summary. And I'm sure that is right. I'm sure they're better. And everything is captive bred, or not everything, but loads of stuff is captive. It's way more common.
That is true. Most things, but they've been doing it a lot longer, so they've had a lot more opportunity to captive breed things. And I do think that the more captive bred marine fish there are, the better. Whether they're bred at source, or whether they're bred elsewhere, I do think that because I have had much better success with some things like the multibar, for example. Like, I would never get a wild multibar. The golden angels are a pain in the ass. So
we'll come on to captive breeding more. That's a separate topic that he talks about as well. But this is really about the attitude towards when there are conservation restrictions. And so, like, he's absolutely right. If there's like an area that is shut down because there's a bleaching event, or there's a scarcity, there's a rare coral, and we're trying to fish them out just so we can have them in a tank. Yeah, absolutely. That's obviously a bad thing. It's ridiculous. But actually, I think there's more to it than that. And I don't think I've seen, there've been times when, so Indonesia got shut down, didn't it?
Yes.
And there were things going on in Indonesia. They weren't doing things right. So that was kind of understandable. But I think actually that doesn't always get communicated. So no one knew why Indonesia got shut down. And actually, when you talk about it more, if you tell us, then I think people are a bit more understanding. But I think he's probably right that there is a little bit more of an attitude of, well, I don't care about that. I want my fish.
I don't know if I'm all I'm going to say. I'm just to be a devil's advocate. I reckon there'll be some people as well that in the freshwater world that would also be equally not happy about some things.
Of course, yeah.
Maybe that doesn't happen as often. Maybe it's less their hobby is potentially less under threat than ours. So maybe that's why they're a bit more relaxed.
Yeah. I think that's probably right. But yeah, I don't know with that. With conservation, I think actually certainly a significant proportion of the saltwater hobby really do care about reefs. You can't, if you've got a saltwater tank, you're not a conservationist. You are not building up a bank of corals to save the planet when all the corals die. All right. So every now and then I see people talk like that. And it's like, well, technically, but that is not what's happening here. You are net bad overall, I think probably is fair to say.
Unless you grow the coral.
Exactly, yeah.
Even I don't grow all the coral, to be fair.
No, indeed. Well, you can't. It's not practical. It's not realistic. Yeah. But just no one likes restrictions and that sort of stuff. Everybody likes being able to do what you want. And so when there are restrictions, it's natural to say, "Oh, come on, I can't do anything these days."
This is what I mean. I don't believe that the freshwater is like absolute angels. Like even when you're driving, you don't want to follow the speed limits. So there must be people that go, I'm not happy with these restrictions, because you're right, people don't want to do what they want.
Yeah, we'll blend into. I don't know if I did a poll on that one. No, I did do a poll. Right, cool. 62% say no, the saltwater hobby does not have a bad attitude towards conservation and restrictions. I mean, we're marking our own homework here, aren't we? So
yeah, true.
But the next one does lead into it. Does the salt water, and this Ryan needs his poll, hobby?
Yeah. I'm just interested in we might feel one way, even with the last one. I think you and I may have felt slightly differently. Not with regards to the topic, but with regards to whether freshwater people are the same or not. So, but that's what this is about. I
don't know is the answer, to be honest. So, the next one is about captive breeding, though, and he talked about tank bred versus captive raised. Freshwater is absolutely smashing that. Everything is captive. You can more or less have an entire tank where nothing is taken from the wild. Whereas you can't do that in saltwater, not so much. And we're heavily dependent on wild collection. This is all true so far.
That is true, yeah.
He did say that Biota and ORA are the exception, and they've been doing really good work in that field for years. And I would say it's not just Biota and ORA. There are others as well. Even there's a place in France called Reef at Home that are doing amazing work with captive spawning fish that you just wouldn't believe. There's a Tunsey made a video on it recently, really impressive, and there's lots more as well. TMC used to do a lot with clownfish. Clownfish are captive bred, and you get way more these days than you used to. So it's not quite true to say, look, saltwater gets no captive bred, but that's not what he was saying. He was just saying that the freshwater world is way ahead, which is very true. And he said that the industry as a whole, the saltwater industry as a whole, moves at a glacial pace when it comes to captive breeding. And he's concerned about the ecologist cost, which you don't get in freshwater. I can't remember what point I was trying to make there. But yeah, he basically, saltwater is way behind freshwater in captive breeding.
I agree with that. What I will say is there's definitely some ethical side to breeding freshwater fish though as well, because like they have plenty of mutant fish these days, which we don't have in the marine aquarium hobby. Will it get to that stage? I don't think that it will get to the same stage as with freshwater. I feel that I might be wrong, but you know how like those goldfish with those massive eyes or bellies. Yeah. I know there are some unusual looking clownfish.
Yeah, threadfin clownfish. Yeah,
the long fin. Yeah. So I know those are unusual, but I don't ever see the hobby get into a stage where you have a clownfish with these massive eyes.
Yeah, well, they've made some fish are fluorescent, aren't they? They put fluorescent pigment
Yes.
and all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
in the freshwater hobby, so there's definitely that as well. In terms of captive breeding, though, the saltwater hobby is behind, and I would like to see more.
Yeah, no,
We're
I
getting
agree.
more, but you always want
Yeah.
more. The trouble is, the freshwater hobby is enormous compared to the saltwater hobby.
Yeah.
So it's way more difficult. Like I found out recently how much a neon tetra costs at a shop to buy. It would amaze you how much it costs to buy. Bearing in mind they have to come over from the Czech Republic or Vietnam or wherever they come from, I don't know. And like the cost of if you're gonna work out before any neon tetras were captive bred, the opportunity, if you can work out how to do that, you're going to make money. Full stop.
Yeah.
If if you apply the same logic to a Midas blenny, you're not going to sell as many. You know, it's much more difficult. The saltwater hobby is already quite expensive. Captive breeding fish makes them more expensive, and so there's a tipping point. People are generally prepared to pay more, but if it's going to cost you 400 quid for a captive bred one or 20 quid for a wild caught one, there's no conversation. So it's more difficult for the saltwater hobby, and I think it's a little unfair to compare them because it's comparing apples and oranges.
Yeah,
but he's right. It's just that it's harder for us, and I think he's right that we do need to do more. It's not that easy.
I think we are going in the right direction is what I will say. It is becoming, and although obviously the Hawaii ban was had a negative impact on us, we now have captive bred Potter's Angels, which we didn't have before, because I would say that it wasn't considered urgent. We now have captive bred yellow tangs, which we didn't have before, and quite a lot of times innovation comes from some form of restriction, and that's what's happened. And I think with the captive bred yellow tangs, they have now bred other tangs as well, like gem tangs, which I have no doubt at all that they would have used the same.
It turns out they do the same, techniques.
Probably, right? I can't say for sure, but I have a feel. So there is good from restrictions as well. But I know this is the last topic, but which has forced innovation is what I'll say.
Absolutely, and you're absolutely right. When there are restrictions, people are forced to innovate and invest money and all this sort of stuff. So you're right. I so far I'm finding this. There's been a lot of heavy topics. Do you think that's fair?
Got an easy one.
I've just moved on. I've just been looking at the next one. I'm like, oh, it's getting worse. I've shuffled a few around a bit because I want something a bit more lighthearted. Okay.
You got my heart racing.
I know. Like when I started this, I was like,
I'm busy writing the list of all the people now that hate us.
Well, this is the thing, and that's the other thing is like we're going to hold back a little bit, I think, because you don't want to upset everybody. But anyway, when if like on captive breeding, you could have conversations with people who are biometrically opposed, and you piss everyone off. But to be fair, I think we're being pretty open.
Oh, captive breeding, I think we need to do more. 100%.
Like, I agree. And 88% of the hobby agrees. We do need to do more. So
that's why we do the polls, because if people agree with us, it's okay.
Exactly. Right. This is brilliant. This is an easy one. Are designer corals a scam? So this is the best one so far. Or not the best one so far. This is more lighthearted. I feel it. I'm like, So he said designer corals are a scam. I can tell you straight off the bat, he's right. And it's currently at 100% on the poll. I'm sure we've only had like 3 votes, but it should finish. Unless someone is selling designer corals comes on here and presses no. But so the point of this was designer corals are a scam. You take a name and he gave the name Unicorn Tears Millie, and then you apply a brand name to it, Prestige Reef Unicorn Tears Millie, for example. You don't do this, of course. And that suddenly means
I'm too lazy, is the honest. I will usually quickly have a look at Google to see if someone else has named something and then put that up, but I'm genuinely too lazy to make most things up.
And there is more to it than just this, to be fair. So we'll go into that. But suddenly if you put a funny name on it and a brand name on it, then suddenly it's worth 200 to 300% more than the exact same coral that has no name.
Yeah,
that is spot on. And to be fair, I don't think this is a typical when the the US sneezes, the UK catches a cold.
Yeah.
We're behind on that. We don't have it so much. It's probably more rampant, if that's the right word, in America than it is over here.
Yeah.
But we absolutely do get it over here still.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, like, it's not uncommon to see a frag for a $500, $1,000 of some crazy acro in America. That's very unusual over here. Very unusual.
I would never be able to sell a frag of an acro for $1,000.
But even like an acro specialist, like Signature
Yeah.
Frags, I don't think I've ever seen a £500 acro on his website. There are some that are like, I've paid 150 for a 1-inch frag.
Yeah.
But I don't think they go crazy. So there is a discrepancy here. But he's absolutely right. He said most of these frags look brown, which I think is a bit unfair. And he said there was something else he said that I also thought was unfair. He said that the freshwater equivalent is taking a Java fern, which is just a bog standard fern plant, calling it an emerald phantom fern and charging $80 all of a sudden. He says people collect designer corals like Pokemon cards. True.
Yeah.
Businesses turn coral frags into hype drops. True. And that's his overall impression. So but so I think you would agree with that, right? For the most part.
I agree. Yeah.
Is there anything do you think there's any mitigation there?
Yes, there is one thing that I think is, like, if you take away the price, which is usually a name comes with a price. That's what usually happens. If you take away the price, the name is very useful, because if someone sends me a message and goes, I want a Raja Rampage chalice, I know exactly what they want. Easy. If someone sends me a message going, because people don't even know what a chalice is. Chalices are one of those corals which people don't always know what they are. So if I got a message
going, a green coral on your website,
which
what is it?
Which half of them are green, then so if with yellow dots or it's not unusual for someone to send me a message and go, I saw this coral in your video, it's green or it's yellow or it's fluffy, and I literally almost every time I go, could you send me a screenshot, because I have no idea what you're talking about. Whereas if someone says I want a Raja Rampage, I know exactly what they want.
Completely. So then, and that it has to be. I do see sometimes people saying that we should only ever use scientific names for everything. That's just completely unrealistic. For a start, I don't think there is even, like, a Space Invader chalice and a Raja Rampage chalice are quite similar looking. I'm guessing they are the same scientific name.
A Space Invader and what you mean, subspecies?
No, okay, let's do Acropora. So if you had two types of Acropora, you had two types of Acropora tenuis. And one of them is blue, one of them is yellow. There's no scientific name for the discrepancies in colors.
Correct,
So it is an Acropora tenuis. That's it. So you need names. You can't just have. And I think when you use scientific names for everything, that is a bit gatekeepery, which he talks about later as well. And that's like, it makes it unaccessible, because, like, if you're new to the hobby, the last thing you need is scientific names complicating things. It is helpful, like if you know what species of tang you're getting, then that's really helpful. So you need to know some of that, and you do need to know some of the science stuff for naming corals, but generally you don't really want that. And actually it's really helpful to have names for corals. And the other thing is, it's our fault, hobbyists' fault, because when someone goes into a shop, they don't look and say, oh, wow, that coral's amazing, I'll buy that. As the masses, and not everybody does, but the masses say, have you got a Hellfire torch? I want a Hellfire. And this is what he's talking about, the Pokemon stuff.
Look, that happens all the time when people come and collect in the farm. And it like, someone will go, oh, I really like the look of that torch. And I go, oh, okay, would you like to buy it? I go, is it this torch? I go, I'll be honest with you, I don't actually know. And they go, oh, well, I'm not sure then. And like,
exactly.
Because I will give you a little insider knowledge. When you import corals, it comes in as gold torch. That gold torch could be a Dragon Soul. That gold torch could be a New York Knicks. They are classified as the same thing on the import. When they on the invoice, so even when I order corals and I order gold corals, you don't actually know what ones you're getting. So it's like they don't have these names obviously in the wild, and especially in science. So
no, indeed, but he's right, because that is a bit of a Pokemon attitude. So that's absolutely right. And this has been the most voted topic so far. We're at double the votes of most of them.
And they all say yes.
Mostly 88% so far. The other thing I'll say though is, so he talked about like the example, and there's a bit of hyperbole in a lot of stuff he says, to be fair. He's just trying to make a point. So
yeah.
But he talked about the Java fern example. It's like taking a Java fern, which is, I don't know, a $10 plant, and calling it something funny and charging $80. That's not quite true, because actually the reason. Yeah, and he's not being literal. He's using that to make a point. But the reason actually that so when it's purely one coral has a name, one coral doesn't have a name, and it's 3 times the price, that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But actually, most of this and the Pokemon collector attitude comes from the fact that there are a lot of subtle differences. And actually, when you've got this, and the coloration and that sort of stuff is amazing in corals. So when you have subtle differences, and when you're used to seeing loads of corals that are green with a bit of red, and then suddenly one is 20% yellow, that is amazing. It's probably a little bit sad, but when you're that into it, and from the outside, it's probably hard to understand, but when you're that into it, that sort of thing is really cool. So it does make a difference. I understand it.
There is one other thing where I think it might make a difference, and you might disagree with this. If someone has, let's say it's not an easy to grow coral. Let's say it's like so if someone's importing coral and they have it for a week, and then they sell it if you are growing a coral yourself, which takes a lot of love, care, money, risk. Like, there has to be a certain level of value added to that, I think, because otherwise no one would do it. Do you understand what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I don't grow acros because I can't be bothered, is the honest answer. Like, all the things I just said, like the risk, the fact that Signature does it, fair play to him. Let him have the entire market. Yeah, I have a few acros, a few of the easy ones which are like, like the Miyagi Tort and things like that, but like tenuous and stuff like that, send him all his way. I don't want the hassle.
I would very much like there to be more like him.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But he does it better than anyone in the UK. So
yeah. But because he grows them, he might have that coral for several years. So is there value in that?
In like making it hardier, do you mean?
Yeah, is there value in the fact he's grown it? There's hardier. That he's put time and effort, and that, like, it's the same as with what is it? There's an example, like say a painter, for example, where they paint a picture, and you go, well, I could have done that, and they go, yeah, but I've spent 20 years learning how to do it properly. Do you not value that 20 years of effort that I've put in, or a builder, or anything?
Yeah. So with Signature in particular as well, because I know him better than I know sort of the American side. He will bring corals in, quarantine them, rest them, color them up, get them to the point where they're looking as healthy as they can be, then frag them, then rest them again, and then ship them out and all this. So there's massive value added there. So it's not just the case that everything is a rip-off. And actually, if he's got, like, I bought a frag of Jason Fox Flame from Signature Frags, or it was that coral anyway, and that has a name which again is useful to identify it. He doesn't have much of that. Corals do grow, and sometimes they grow fast, but actually if you're selling them and there's a big demand for it and not much of it, supply and demand, simple economics, the price is going to go up. Okay. And so that is definitely the case. But I think what this guy, Aquarium Store Depot, is talking about is the other end of that, when there's just like someone just put a stupid name on it, put their brand stamp on it, and suddenly it's worth $500. And I can't disagree with that at all.
No, you're more talking about fresh imports, and I can prove to you that there is value in coral which is grown in captivity, because would you buy a fresh import acro? There you go. That tells you something.
Yeah. Every time I do, it dies.
There you go. So there is value in it.
Completely. Yeah, absolutely. So again, with a lot of this stuff, I think there's more nuance to most of it, actually.
Yeah.
But there we go. And the poll was 87% said yes, designer corals are a scam. Next one. and this is another, again, I've shuffled it around a little bit, and this is the last light-hearted one, I think. Oh, there's one more light-hearted one. But this is the last light-hearted one. And this is one I think we're going to get a similar outcome on the poll.
Okay.
Gadget worship.
Okay. I have indifference towards this. So this is going to be heavy on you, I think.
Really? I thought I thought this was singing your tune. All right. So what he was saying is that reef keeping has turned into a gadget hobby that happens to involve fish.
Yes, to some extent I would agree with that. But what I'm saying is I don't partake in it myself.
No, indeed.
I have one, like, certain things I like, and I will have those on every single tank forever.
Yep.
I don't mix and match, do I?
Okay, well, I'll finish off telling you the other things he said, and then we'll get into it. So he said that the amount of tech people think they need is wild. Although he listed some really bad examples. He talked about dosing pumps, auto top-offs, and par meters, ICP tests, calcium reactors. Some of them, auto top-off with redundancy, he talked about. They are really useful. Dosing pumps, they are really useful.
Yeah, no, I agree with those. Yeah.
Calcium reactors have been around for years. ICP tests, most people don't need them, but they are useful. Par meters, arguably more important than you might think. But the point, taking those examples out, he's right that some people are obsessed with equipment, basically. And I don't know if I'd say I'm obsessed with it, but it's certainly a significant part of the hobby for me. I don't have controllers or that sort of stuff, but some people are well into it, and probably way more in the saltwater hobby than in the freshwater hobby. And he talks about how you used to be able to run things much more simply, just with a load of rock and a skimmer. You can still do that. So, and actually, so that if you don't need, but this is kind of the point he's making. You don't need all of this, but sometimes you do see people just focusing on the equipment, for sure. And I'm sure I'm guilty of that.
I think the people that are going out and buying all of the fancy equipment as their first introduction tank, when they get everything, all the testers and everything. No, that's not necessary.
I saw one on Ultimate Reef. It was a couple of years ago. It was like a 6-foot tank, and it was his first tank. And he'd like the first photo. And so I've talked about this before in videos. Actually, now I'm just jogging my memory. You see a photo on a Facebook group or whatever, and it's this expensive tank with all this expensive equipment, and they've got all the stuff. And when I see that, I just think, oh my God, are you crazy? Like the TMC tank, 300 quid. That's it. Worst case scenario, let's say by the time you've bought rock, corals and everything, you're a year into the hobby. Let's say you've spent £1,000 on that. You decide it's not for you. It hasn't gone right. You've lost £1,000. That's bad, but it's not the end of the world. If you've spent 10,
you won't have lost 1,000 because you will recoup some selling it. But I know what you're trying to say.
Right. Well, okay, fine. Let's say you have a fit of rage and you throw it all in the bin, and it wouldn't cost you £1,000. It'd be less. But anyway, yeah. But if you've spent 10 grand on all the swankiest equipment and all that, that is crazy. And like, it's funny because if you're just getting into the hobby, one other thing, so YouTube is partly responsible for this because, so someone like me, my main tank, it's not like a equipment haven, but there's quite a lot of stuff on it. I'm getting a replacement beer. Thanks very much. There's quite a lot of stuff on it because I've been doing this a while. I know what I like. I know what I think I need and what I don't. And so this is like, if you copy my main tank as your first tank, you're doing it wrong. Full stop. That's all there is to it. If you copy the TMC tank, no problem. It's great. But if you copy my main tank, then you're probably doing it wrong if it's your first go. And actually that happens a lot because YouTubers in particular tend to have, the longer they're in the hobby, the more they get into it. They probably get a little bit of money. They might get a little bit of free equipment from YouTube. And so they end up with all the fancy stuff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the halo effect. Everyone's like, oh, well, that's what I see. That's all I watch is YouTube. So that's what I want. But actually that you don't need, you don't need that at all. And when you look at videos, when people talk about setting up a new tank, all of the tank setup videos I've ever done have been at least with partially a half a mind on budget.
Yeah.
And most setup guides are like that. It's just that when people set up their main tanks and run them, they're usually quite fancy and quite expensive. And I think that gets infectious. He also go on.
There's definitely I bet you have a cupboard of stuff that you don't use
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Or I'll actually no, you're usually sell it or pass it on to someone else, don't you? So you're not as bad as I have to have a shed of all the stuff that
I saw it yesterday. Yeah.
No, I mean that's not strictly true. That's mainly for like all the coral
bubble
shipping
wrap.
packages and bubble wrap and everything. But there's definitely like if I redid the coral farm, there's definitely some things that I wouldn't use again. I had there's just loads and loads of little things where I was just like, yeah, I didn't need that. So, but I thought I did at the time. One of the I had those skimmer overflowing things on both tanks originally, and I did. They stopped working. I think. I just or maybe I unplugged them. But one of them, I definitely stopped working, and I've been running for probably 3 years without it. So did I need it? What I will say, there's some things which are beneficial. Like if you need them, they are beneficial. So do you need an aquarium controller? You don't. But if you have a power cut or not a power, and you're out and you need to know, then it is beneficial. So like
this is the thing, and there are lots of things like that you don't need, but it's easy to think that you do. And so
it's like insurance. Yeah, you don't want to have it until you do need it.
But particularly if you're new to the hobby, it's difficult to work out what fits with that. So, for example, my last, I think 3 or 4 videos on the channel have been the TMC tank. That is a beginner's tank, pure and simple. If you're an experienced reefer, you're probably not buying it. I think if you've been in the hobby 10 years, you'd be disappointed, and you'd be better off with like the UNS 90 that's been popping up. But if you're a beginner, manna from heaven. So all my last few videos have been on that, and I've probably been getting subscribers based on that, and people are watching my videos because of that. The next video, potentially, or actually now it's been shelved because for reasons, but the next video is going to be the Aquawiz review of the alkalinity tester. That's a 700 quid alkalinity tester that tests alkalinity every hour. Last thing you need if you're a beginner. But if you're watching 3 or 4 videos in a row of me setting up that tank, and then the next video you watch is a 700 quid alkalinity tester, do you think, oh well, Reef Dork says that's good, maybe I should buy it, maybe I need it, oh god, this is expensive. So that YouTube is bad for that, in that sometimes it's a little bit, because like if I spent the first 5 minutes of a video explaining that, everyone's going to switch it off. So YouTube ends up with a lot of that sort of stuff. A lot of equipment comes out, and one of the things that I really don't like is when this is the way YouTube works, all in, not just in our hobby, but when equipment gets sent out to YouTubers, people want to see a video straight away. So there's almost always a video made within the first week, and I do this or an unboxing, or maybe a couple of weeks in, and your experience of a piece of equipment 6 months down the line is usually at least slightly different, sometimes wildly different than it was at first. And when you get something new, it's always exciting. So you don't get to see that properly. Aaron's Aquarium did a video today, which you probably didn't watch because you don't watch anything, but he talked about an auto water changer, and he'd had that for months before he made the video talking about it, because he was like, you know what, I want to see how it gets on. And it's just that's so useful when you can do that. But most of the time, like if I post something on Instagram, so I've got this, all I get for the next few weeks is when's a video, because people want to see it, and there's a trade-off there. So anyway, the other things he said on that were that now the hobby has convinced everyone that they need 3,000 pounds of lights and a controller that notifies you every 5 minutes when your alkalinity drops by 0.1.
See, I think I've had 3 different type of alkalinity testers, yet for some reason I test alkalinity manually every week, personally, and I don't use the testers. There's something that I do think that is really valuable, and which is something that people probably don't think about. The more effort you put into something, the more you care about it. So if you're manually testing your water every week, you will have more. You're more in tune with your
invested
tank.
Yes,
you're more invested. You're more in tuned, and I personally think you're a better reefer. When I do the consultations with people, and especially with new tank builds and stuff like that, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to get this," I'm like, "Look, let's rein things in. These are the things that you don't need to buy, and alkalinity testers are absolutely one of them." And I actively encourage people that they should be testing their water themselves. Don't go to a shop. Don't get an automatic tester for at least a year, because you are in tune with your tank if you're doing that. Agreed?
Absolutely, 100%, absolutely. So I do really like alkalinity testers,
Yeah.
for me, but I
Yeah.
would never advise someone to get one on your first tank. It's just another piece of equipment that you've got to try to understand that just overcomplicates things. So absolutely, yeah. If you're beginner, you don't need stuff, but people do get convinced that they need £3,000 of lights and all this sort of stuff, because like Ecotech do a really good job of making stuff look good and shiny and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not singling them out, but I'm just saying they're particularly good at that. But everyone does, and like you could,
I get the pen for the list. I'm not sure if they've
they're
ever
on
been
the
on
list already. but they, for example, so like you can easily convince yourself if you look on Facebook, YouTube, wherever, forums, that I need a Radion. On Radion, they're the best lights. I need a Radion. I need to spend 800 quid. But actually, if you find one, a secondhand whatever from eBay for 100 quid, or even a cheapo one on Amazon for 100 quid, within reason, you're almost certainly going to have the same level of success.
See, I am such a man of routine that those are the only lights that I will use. Genuinely, and I've told you this before. This isn't like for
what
this
lights
light.
have you got on your water box? Remind me.
No, that's what I was about to say. Didn't I say to you the other day? I like the one thing that I don't like about that tank is the lights. I really don't like them because they're not easy to change. Whereas with the Ecotech one, see, I'm a man of routine. I don't like change, and I know what I know, and I don't like to learn anything else. So that's the reason, and they work. That's so. I know what you're saying. You're saying people, but if I am actually thinking about getting new ones, but I would probably buy secondhand ones. Is what I would do.
Yeah,
I would get secondhand.
You're making a different point though, because what I'm saying. So you and I. So I'm like if anyone's going to lecture someone on not changing your lights, I need to step away from that conversation because
exactly
hypocrite warning, right?
Yeah.
But the only thing I was, and actually I was about to say I spent a lot of money on lights. My current set of lights were given to me for free, so I didn't. But I would have spent. When I was working out what I was going to get, I was planning on spending about. Oh, actually, it probably would have been north of £3,000. It was a lot of money on lights. But people like you and I know what we like. We've got the money to pay for this hobby because we're obsessed with it, and that's all we want to do. So you're going to get that. That's fine. I don't think there's a problem with that. It's just that people who are new to the hobby end up being convinced that they need that to do it. And I'm not saying Radions are bad lights. They are genuinely very, very good lights. If you buy them, your light will not be the reason your tank sucks unless you put it up to 100%. But so that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying, I think what he's saying is you don't need, if you've got a secondhand T5 light, your tank would probably be better than if you've got a brand new Radion.
Yeah. I always encourage people to get secondhand stuff, especially if they're starting new, because there's usually loads of it out there. It's interesting because if you said to me, you cannot have any other light, so you can't have a Radion, like what light would you have? I was sitting here thinking while you're talking, going, I don't know, because I genuinely don't know, because I don't like any of the other ones. I've had AI lights before, and I had those for a little while, but before that I had T5 bulbs. So I've had and I had the Red Sea ones, but they were too blue for me. I wasn't a huge fan of, because I had the very, very first generation of them, and I found them way too blue.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I've bought a lot of lights.
No, to be fair, if I said to you, I can't have that light, what would I get? I'd just come to you and say, what light do you recommend?
Yeah, I'll give you a load of options and confuse you even more. But
John Wright says Strattons. That's who East Coast Reefer has those, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know enough about them. I think I might have seen them once, maybe.
But again, Strattons, they're great lights, but they're expensive. You don't need them. And I don't
know how much they are either.
They're probably more than Radions. But anyway, this is kind of feeding into the point that this guy's making, is that people convince themselves they need £3,000 of lights and a controller. You don't actually. The hobby, and to be fair, we talk about this all the time. People get fed up of it, I'm sure. The hobby's really simple. It's not about, if you spend £1,000 on a light rather than spending £500 on a light, the things you're getting are probably benefits for you, not the corals. Yeah, if you buy a power head like the Vortec MP40s, brilliant power heads. I love mine.
Yeah,
but they do the exact same job for the corals. If you ask a coral, do you want an MP40 or a Jecod? It won't be able to talk, but it would be like, I don't care. Whereas you might think, oh, I want the app, and I want to be able, I want to be able to press feed mode.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean.
So yeah, I think there's a degree of truth to that. And the last thing he said on that point was that this whole thing about gadget worship is gatekeeping disguised as optimization, and it creates a barrier to entry that puts beginners off, which I agree with. I agree that it creates a barrier to entry that puts people off.
I definitely think that the hobby has become more expensive,
Yes.
which is. You're about to disagree with me. We're about to have a fight live on the stream, aren't we?
No, I was about to say it doesn't have to be. That's the thing, but it generally speaking is. But it doesn't have to be. It's just that it's easy to think that it is.
This has been the most difficult subject for me to comment on because I just
don't.
I don't care about fancy stuff in terms of like gadgets. I just like put it on. Does it work? Never change it. That's my philosophy. Never change it for years.
Yeah. The poll said is there too much gadget worship? And the answer was yes, 67%.
There you go.
There we go. Right. So we've done the light-hearted ones.
We probably should have like spread those out to make it easier.
Yeah, I know. It was getting me down. I was like, you know what? I need to do something more light-hearted. Right, but we're going to go back into the heavy stuff now.
Okay.
Starting with something close to our hearts, is the saltwater YouTube community exhausting? So this is one that the headline he said was that the saltwater YouTube community is exhausting. And actually, this is one area that I just don't see the things he's talking about. I'm not saying he's wrong, it's just I don't see it. He said that there are inner feuds, there's a territorial attitude whereby it's, hey, I'm doing well, I don't want you to do well. People don't collaborate and shout each other out like they do in the freshwater hobby. People don't get mad in the freshwater hobby when other people copy their style, which they do in the saltwater hobby. And again, this is not me saying this is telling you what he's saying. People in the freshwater hobby, people celebrate when a creator hits a milestone instead of quietly seething about it. And the last point I'll come on to later, I don't recognize any of that. So we talked about inner feuds and inner feuds. I've seen that like maybe once or twice, but generally, actually, all the things he talks about, territorial attitude where people get mad when other people copy their style, I've not seen that. People don't collaborate or shout each other out. I see that all the time in saltwater hobby. I did Remy did a collaboration with a load of people. He put me on it as well. Inappropriate Reefer did a collaboration. We do this collaboration all the time.
I did one with Inappropriate Reefer.
Yeah, we don't get many guests on, to be fair. We've done it a bit, but there are other reasons. But I to be fair, so Reef Bum does that all the time. I don't see that at all. That was the first point I got to in that video where I was like, maybe I'm missing something. Entirely possible, because if he's talking about inner feuds, that must come from somewhere. But I haven't seen it. And I think actually that the saltwater YouTube hobby is quite a nice place. I think whenever if us people ever meet up, we all get on and
no, I agree. As in, well, look, we did it the other day, didn't we? We met up with East Coast. The Spiritual Reefer, obviously, we left. We left as he was arriving. But if you look at Aqua, afterwards we all went out for a drink, didn't we? So
with a load of the freshwater people as well, which is good.
Yeah, and regularly, like Spiritual gets shouted out, East Coast Reefer gets shouted out on this live stream. So
we talk about Reef Dudes, we talk about Inappropriate Reefer, BRS Ryan. Yeah, so and I see that this isn't just virtue signaling, look how great we are. I see that quite a lot, I think. Maybe it happens more maybe it happens 10 times more in the freshwater world, I don't know.
But this is what I said to you. I reckon there's so many, I think that this might be wrong. Someone in the industry will probably know this, but I think like it's like 90% freshwater, 10% marine is
exactly. Yeah.
So that means there's 90% more.
9 times more. Yeah.
9 times more. Yeah. Thank you. 9 times more freshwater people in theory, which means it's easier, and there's a lot more people that you can all get on with. Because if you don't get on with one person, you can there's 8 other ones that you can get on with.
Exactly. Yeah, you picked up the master. So so that I just didn't see that at all, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But then there must be some stuff he specifically seen, and actually, to be fair, I'm not going to go into it because it's drama, but there is. I've seen 1 or 2 examples of some of the stuff he's talking about, but even that's a couple of years ago now. And the other thing he said on this point, which doesn't feel like it's related to this point, but he said that newbies get hazed for asking basic questions, and that's a gatekeeper attitude, as if, you know, you got to earn the right to be here, that sort of thing. I would be amazed if that's newbies getting hazed by YouTubers, saltwater YouTubers, on Facebook and that sort of stuff all the time. Like I mentioned earlier, sometimes when people post about an app, what's like this, they're new to the hobby, they post a photo of an Aptasia and say, "What's this?" People laugh at them. "Oh, don't you know? You shouldn't be in the hobby stuff." It's like, come on, don't be ridiculous. But in YouTube, I'd be surprised if that was the case. I've never seen a YouTuber in our hobby like having a pop at a newbie.
Not that I've noticed. I just wonder if there's a possibility, if maybe it's not directly at a newbie, but words can be taken in a different way. Where do you see what I mean? Where someone might go, "Oh, look, this is an Aptasia. This is easy." You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because other way, I can't work out how that could come across.
Well, in which case, I'm going to end the poll there. 81% of people say no. I've not been keeping up with the chat because there's just so much to talk about.
Yeah, I know.
But tell me if you answered yes, that you think the saltwater YouTube community is exhausting, which 19% of you did. Tell us what you mean.
That's not. Do you find Alex and I exhausting?
Yeah, we don't want to hear that. Yeah, that's. And this leads into the next one, and this is quite funny, I think, actually. How do I phrase this in a question? Is there an arrogance problem in saltwater? I tell you what, I'm going to let you kick this one off, Ryan.
Yes,
oh, actually, no, you know what? No. So I'll tell you what he said, and then you can kick it off. So he said that the saltwater community has an arrogance problem. And there's definitely an element of arrogance sometimes with saltwater, for sure. I think most people actually aren't like that. Most people I meet and talk to are really nice, but there's definitely an element of that. And he said there's a subset of SPS reef keepers who think they're special, like they've unlocked a higher plane of fish keeping existence, basically because they think they're better than everybody else because they can look after difficult corals. Again, the SPS keepers I've met, acro keepers I've met who've had really nice tanks are just lovely and really, really helpful. But I definitely see some of that in some places. And he said maybe I haven't got my finger on the pulse with this, but he said there's a certain influencer in our hobby, in saltwater side, who calls freshwater people freshies. Like it's saying it as if it's like in a derogatory manner. Now, the word freshies to me, that doesn't, like freshie, freshwater, that sort of stuff, that doesn't sound like an insult. But maybe if you're in the freshwater hobby, it is. Maybe it's kind of like a connotation of you're fresh, you're new, I don't know. But I don't know who that is. I'm hoping it's not me because it's the sort of thing. Now I'm saying this,
I was like, I wonder if that's Alex.
Exactly. Now I'm saying that, I'm like, have I said that before? Not realizing it's an insult or something. But anyway, he said that there's like an elitism that treats soft corals as lesser than SPS, which I think is an interesting topic itself. But basically, his overall point is that there is some arrogance in the hobby, a god complex, if you will. Ryan, what's your thoughts on that?
I actually agree with him. I do, and I will include myself and you in that. And whether people find this offensive or not, I think if you are doing something which is deemed difficult by other people, it makes you feel good. And I really do think that, and I've said this many times before, I think it breeds a god complex in people. I do, because people come over to your house and then they go, "Oh, wow, look at this! This must be really hard." Now, when you're on the inside, you know it's not as hard as it used to be now. So, is it? Someone just said in the chat, the hobby has very strong opinions. It's true. I absolutely I agree with it. And I think that there's certain types of people which are also drawn to this hobby as well.
Yeah.
Like 100%. Do I think that I don't see it. I think arrogance can be seen as a very negative term, if you see what, like, that doesn't mean that they're an arrogant person in general. I think that you can be arrogant about your tank, I think is probably a better way of saying it. And as I said, I I've been there myself, and I think what happens is there is this curve which people go on where the hobby sort of like, at first you're very new and then you start to know some. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect, and this is the dangerous bit. The bit that people where people know some are the people that usually are the most outspoken, and then but they don't realize how much else there is to know. And usually the people that are the very, very like top, and I am not at the very, very top. I'm talking like people that have been doing this for a long time. You know, like Sanjay, for example, amazing tank. Like, I think those people usually are the ones that don't comment too much on other things. They're usually more in the background, I would say. So would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. You see them in popping up in newspaper magazine articles or whatever, but otherwise not really. I think there's definitely snobbiness in terms of arrogance. There are some people who are quite arrogant and think a lot of themselves, but actually from what I see, for most people I interact with, is if you tell them their tank is amazing, and this is like a natural reaction in everything, is they almost play opposites. So they play it down. I always do that. When the most I'll say is, oh, actually the tank's looking all right at the moment. But normally, if someone says my tank is looking nice, I'm like, yeah, I don't know, it's looking all right. And most people,
no one ever likes their own tank.
Exactly, yeah. So I think most people play it down, but there is an element of that. But I think the one thing that I think is right in terms of arrogance is there is certainly, and I'm guilty of this, I hate to say, there's a snobbiness in saltwater, and that saltwater people think they're better than freshwater people. Yes. Now, I don't necessarily think that's
particularly... I was like, yes, that's true.
It's like, that's true. That's a fact, isn't it? Yeah. But I don't necessarily think that's the case generally. But I think that so I don't have an interest in freshwater. I just don't. It just doesn't interest me. And I do think that, therefore, I try to phrase this very carefully, that saltwater is better because there's more variety in all these sorts of things. And so it doesn't interest me. And I think that probably does. I'm sure there are freshwater people who would watch me talk about these sorts of things and think he's just an arrogant saltwater type. He's snobby. He looks down his nose at us. I'd like to think that that's not what I'm actually like, but I can see that, and I don't think that's uncommon. I think there is a snobbiness in saltwater.
Joe,
people are a bit like.
I have most respect for discus keepers.
Oh, yeah.
There's the arrogance.
a discus that hard to keep anymore. Like, but when I started looking into them,
hard.
When I started looking into them 10 years ago, they were impossible. But I talked to someone at a shop recently Reef Keeper have started stocking them.
Yeah. And
they were saying that it's not as difficult. But like the freshwater planted area is always the one area. When the conversation comes up as which is more difficult, saltwater or freshwater, normally you'll say saltwater is more complicated. But actually, if you do freshwater as a freshwater planted with CO2 and all this sort of stuff, those are the most complicated, and those are the ones that take the most maintenance. So there are elements of the freshwater hobby that can be extremely complicated.
I also think that if you get a high-end freshwater tank can look amazing. I know a high-end reef tank can look amazing as well, but like there's something about the aquascape of a freshwater tank, which usually is not, I don't know what it is. You can't replicate that same design with a reef tank generally. The best reef tank I would say that Mara, is it Mara's Reef?
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Now that's an exceptional tank. But is it exceptional because it's just full of acros, or is it exceptional based on the aquascape, which is, you see what I'm getting at? Like the aquascape is what makes some of these freshwater ones exceptional.
There are a number of reasons that's an exceptional tank.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is I'll share my screen, and these are tanks that I would never dream of trying to run. For a start, I'm not creative enough, but these are Amano tanks. I think it's Takashi Amano, a Japanese bloke. He's like a legend in the freshwater hobby. But look at that, for example. I mean, that's just the first thing I think when I see that is, how much maintenance must that take? That must take so much effort to keep looking that awesome. But there are some these kind of, look at that. They're amazing. They're really cool. But I reckon most people don't have, look at that. Most people don't have tanks like that because
I
it's
think
so
there's two types of freshwater
difficult.
tanks. There's freshwater, like this is your first tank, and then there's those tanks, and they can't
So
even be compared.
yeah, and in terms of the freshwater and saltwater difference there, have I started the poll? Yeah, I have. It's started the difference there. There are a lot more, and I'm gonna try. I hope this comes across in the way I intend it, but there are a
I
lot
look
more
forward to
people.
responding to this comment.
There are a lot more people who set up freshwater tanks who are casual than there are saltwater keepers who are casual. Loads of people, I speak to people all the time at work who are like, oh yeah, you keep oh, I hear you've got fish. Oh, I've got a goldfish in my house. Loads more people who are just like, and when you show me the photo and it's like half the water's evaporated, it's just like, it's just, you know, it's a fish in the house. That's
Yeah,
it, basically. I think there are more people like that. Whereas there's a greater percentage of saltwater people kind of enthusiast level, and I'm not saying that that saltwater people are better at all. I'm just saying that there's probably a lot more people who are really into it, and that probably partly feeds into it.
I think there's a level of fear generally when you enter the saltwater aquarium. No one fears getting a goldfish, and so like people take it home, they put it in a tank, and that's fine. And they just go, oh yeah. But there is a level of fear and money and knowledge that are required to run a successful tank, I think.
So the only thing with that is that a lot of that is misplaced, and a lot of that is misplaced because some saltwater people like to tell you how clever they are, right? Because actually, setting up a reef tank, a saltwater aquarium, it's probably more difficult than setting up a simple freshwater tank. It's not that much more difficult. You don't need that much, and it's certainly not as complicated as people make out. And often people will say to me, "Oh, you keep saltwater? Isn't that really difficult?" And most of the time, I've got two responses. I either say,
he says yes. He's like, yes, I am a god.
You wouldn't be able to do it. I don't think. I either say it's a bit of a pain in the arse and there's a lot of maintenance or something like that, or I say actually it's not as difficult as you'd think, or a combination of the two. Because running my tank is not. I'm not a genius. I've not got amazing acros or whatever. It's a fair amount of maintenance and it's a fair amount of effort. But actually, running a saltwater tank generally is not as difficult as some people like to make out.
It's not about intelligence anymore. It's about diligence. That's
which is, I mean, this is why you can be successful. So.
It's funny because I actually thought this before the live stream about how I would, and I've forgotten what I was going to say until that point. I am not an intelligent person.
You're supposed to laugh when I say something like that because otherwise people think I'm serious.
Everything at school. Like half the time I didn't even turn up is the honest answer. Well, no, I usually turn up, but I was vacant. But it's because I wasn't interested. So it's not an intelligent thing to do this. It's about diligence and care and maintenance, basically.
You're a lot more intelligent than you're giving yourself credit for there, by the way.
I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm intelligent. Oh,
you might not be able to do algebra.
Yeah, like, I would say not in terms of academic intelligence is what I would say.
Okay. Is there an arrogance problem in saltwater? 60% say yes.
There you go.
There you go.
I like it when we're on the winning side.
I'm not sure. I think given that we are saltwater people, being called arrogant and being confirmed, not sure that's a win, but okay.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is, if we say yes and then 10% say yes with us, then we're not in the majority.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Next one. Ethical issues with saltwater YouTubers.
I actually thought this was interesting, this one, but I'll let you go first this time.
Yeah. And the one thing with this, there's a few topics of YouTube in particular. And so I'm instantly, like, I'm not the person to talk about this because there's probably a level of unconscious bias here where I'm going to defend because in case it's talking about me, but I'll try to be balanced here anyway. So in this point, he was talking about saltwater content is too often treats livestock like content fuel. You have the same thing happens over and over again. You have a massive build, an insane stocking list, then a tank crash, a rebuild and repeat, and people buy into that because they've experienced it themselves or it's a relatable journey or whatever. And he said that, and this was the kind of the main point he was making. Actually, one point he said is that he thinks that tank crash content is very clickable, very enticing for views, good for views, effectively. But the main point he was saying is that some of the, and this is the thing he has an issue with in terms of ethics, is that some of the crashes are avoidable and decisions are made because they make better content.
I don't know about that last bit.
I do.
Okay, elaborate.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. So Michael Owens talked about this a little bit in his last video, that he's not at the moment, he's not doing stuff, he's not doing updates on his tank because he doesn't want to have to be interfering with it and tinkering and that sort of stuff. And that is, you definitely see that a lot across the saltwater hobby, is people making updates on their tank. I've never really, so I do tank updates, of course, but I've always thought from the start, no one wants to know what's going on with my tank every week, so I don't really care about that, so I don't tend to do that. But there probably are decisions that are made that shouldn't be made. And actually, for example, this probably shouldn't be made. So that I set that tank up behind me quicker than I would have done if, I was going to say quicker than I would have done if I was just doing it for myself. That's actually probably not true, but quicker than I would advise other people to do, for sure. And I talked about that, but you can say don't do this all you like. If you show someone, people are like, oh, cool.
But you didn't. Did you buy the box fish, for example, because you wanted the box fish, or because you think people will be interested in it?
Oh, because I wanted it, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think I make decisions based on whether people will find them interesting. I buy things because I want them.
But so this is, I think,
more frequently, potentially, like. Yeah. Than I potentially would, but yeah, probably. The only thing,
but I like to think this isn't necessarily applicable to us, but I think more generally, and I'm not singling anyone out here, not calling anyone out.
I remember Mike saying previously, and I have felt this as well, where you go, oh, I feel like I need to
do a video,
I need to do something, and this will be an interest. So I remember that. I think the longer you're in it, the less you care. Maybe if you're early in the YouTubers, then yeah, maybe. The one thing I wanted to say about that is that he said that the content is clickable, yes, but what I will 100% guarantee you, not a single YouTuber wants to put out a video that their tank crashed.
No, indeed. But I think he's not saying that. He's just saying that that it was avoided. You wouldn't be in that position if you'd have been focusing on different things.
This is a little bit of an insight. It is humiliating when you fail and you have to tell people. I fear that Moorish idol every day. And that's not a joke. That's actually true. Yeah. I love the fish. I think it's great. It's great. If I put coral in there and it eats it, I don't care. I'm willing to accept all of those things. If I made a poor decision and I have to show thousands of people I made a poor decision, no one wants to do that. Sometimes if something goes wrong, I don't tell people because I don't want to tell. So I'm not like, oh yeah, this will be good for clicks. I don't want people to know because it's embarrassing. So people hold us, I would say, to a higher account than they hold themselves. That definitely applies with things like quarantining and stuff like that. There'll be millions, thousands of people that don't quarantine. If Alex doesn't quarantine and his fish die, then that's not good. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
I think we're held to a higher account. So I don't think people are like, yeah, my tank crashed. This is great. I can make content. It's terrible when that happens because it's like an added thing. It makes the tank crash worse.
Yeah. So in terms of holding people to a higher account, every now and then, and most comments on my YouTube channel are almost always really positive, really friendly. Sometimes critical, that's fine, but never nasty, or very rarely nasty. But every now and then you'll get someone holding you to a higher standard for no reason whatsoever, just because they want to be a bit of a douchebag, basically. Yeah. So I think you do get that to a degree, but that just means that you've got to. That's in a way that's a good thing because it keeps you honest. It makes you think more carefully, I think. But I guess it probably is easy, and I can't think of examples, to be fair, but it is easy to think, right, I've got to make a video this week. What can I do? I need to do something with my tank. I did it.
Bleach.
God, yeah. I did a series. I've talked about this before. When I first set up my channel, I decided I have to do a video every week, which I wasn't doing before then. And I was like, well, I don't really have any, like now I've got ideas for days basically, but at the time I didn't. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? And I came up with this series called Tweak of the Week. Don't watch it. It's awful. It's the worst content.
It even
on YouTube.
Sound bad.
I know. Like, it's just it was boring. Like, anyway, and all the videos were boring. But I decided I was going to do something every week. But I wasn't tinkering with the tank. It was like I was soundproofing my cabinet doors, and I was upgrading my RODI filter, and these sorts of things. But they were bloody tedious. But it's easy to think that you need to upload videos every week. It's just I've never felt like people are going to be interested in tank updates all the time. To be fair, what I will say is on that point, when I'm setting up a new tank, you absolutely feel like you need to follow the usual process is day 1, setting up the tank, day 2 or video number 2, adding fishing corals, video number 3, adding cleanup crew and livestock and all that sort of stuff. And actually you can do that if you're careful, but if you're not careful, it's like it's not the best way of doing it. And it doesn't help if you're showing every week, oh, I'm doing this, is rushing basically. And I've tried to, and I've kind of done that my videos are 2 weeks apart now, so it's not so bad. I've kind of done that with the TMC tank. It's just I've tried to sort of emphasize, look, this is just to show you what the tank looks like. I'm not showing you how to do it. I've done other videos on that, so don't do this. But it's all well and good saying that. People are still like, yeah, I know you're saying I shouldn't, but you obviously can. So
yeah.
But you lead a horse to water, basically, isn't it? Are there ethical issues with saltwater YouTubers? Yes, 62%.
There you go. We're on the losing side of this one.
Which means one of the two of us has ethical problems. I'm pretty sure they're talking about you, Ryan. So thanks, guys. Appreciate the support. And the final one. Wow, a lot to go through here, wasn't there? The final one is that live rock used to be better. Basically.
Why was this a complex one or a risky one? The answer is yes, it was. It did used to be better.
Yeah, maybe this isn't. Let me go into. This isn't one of the heavy ones. Anyway, so you're right. Live rock did used to be better, and what he was talking. But this for me is like a classic example of all the stuff on this list. This is the one that I think this is a back in the day things were better. Like when you didn't have speed cameras, for example, that life was better. No one likes speed cameras. The 20-mile-an-hour speed limits popping up near me now.
I know.
Just like, that is like the worst thing. Anyway,
I know.
Digress. It feels so slow. Anyway, right, live rock did used to be better, and he was talking about there used to be an entire ecosystem, and half the fun was seeing what hitchhikers you're going to get. Are you going to get a mantis shrimp or all these sorts of things, or what the little snails that look like a fingernail? Stomatellus, all those sorts of things, and that was half of the fun. Whereas now it's all just dry rock, sterile rock, and that hurts tanks and causes things like dinoflagellates. And we created this problem, we as in the hobby, by trying to keep things too clean and too controlled.
100%. 100% true.
Yeah,
it could not like this is the one I'm most passionate about.
Yeah.
Like it was just easier before. Like, so the equipment made things easier, but the life in the rock made it, like, not having that anymore has made it much harder. Is what
there's only one thing I can say in mitigation on this, and one point where it's like, well, but I 100% agree with it. Well, obviously not 100% because of what I'm about to say, but
99.
The main reason for this is, and this is slightly changed now, but you can't get it. There was a time when you could not get live rock. So this isn't like the hobby causing itself a problem. The hobby causes itself a problem because we do want things too clean and too sterile. I feel like we've turned a corner there, and there was a period where that was targeted, and now people understand that that's not so desirable. So I think that's probably changing. But the only thing I can say there is that the reason that you don't have live rock so much anymore is because you can't get it.
Yeah.
But that's not strictly true. That's not the only reason, because actually you can get it again now, but it's expensive. And the two things that put people off more than anything about live rock, number one, the price, normally 25 quid a kilo. What's that? 2.2 pounds in a kilo.
See, I haven't bought live rock or dry rock in a very long time. So, or like man-made rock. So how does that compare? Do you know, like per kilo?
It's hard for me
Is
to
it
say.
like £1 per kilo as opposed to 25, or is it like £20
My
per
my
25?
last aquascape my last few aquascapes that I bought were from a company called RR Aquascapes, and they make bespoke ones, and they're brilliant. They do price it, I think, on weight, but they don't. Either they don't tell me, or I can't remember. All I can tell you is I wanted this exact aquascape. I told them what I wanted. They charged me a fee for it, and I couldn't tell you how much it weighed and how much what it was. So I don't know. But the TMC, so the TMC Eco Saver, whatever it's called, in the Eco Reef Rock in the tank I've got, BRS Ryan's banging on about that at the moment, saying it's really good. It's sold as something else. I think it's Eco Saver in the States. Anyway, that is quite expensive. That's not cheap. But I don't know. I'm guessing that it's cheap. That live rock is more expensive. But the two things that put people off are, one, the price, and two, people are scared. So he talked about the best thing about getting live rock is that you don't know what hitchhikers you're going to get. People are scared of hitchhikers, especially Aptasia. It's like, oh, I don't want Aptasia, and which I was.
That's the least of your worries most of the time.
Well, that's so I was scared of that. But when I first set up my tank, I did buy live rock, and it was hilarious. There was this massive tub of like a vat in the shop I was buying it from, and I was trying to pick through, like trying to pick the right ones, and I was trying to get the guy to help me. I was like, well, which ones of these have got Aptasia on them? And some of them were covered in Aptasia, but then I'd find a few that weren't, and I was like, oh, I'll get that bit. But they did have Aptasia, I just couldn't see it because if it's on half of the pieces, it's on all of them. So, and actually, Aptasia wasn't really a major issue for me, but people are scared of hitchhikers, and they get, and I think I often see beginners wanting not to go for live rock because they think it's bad and they're scared of what it'll do. But actually, the reality is that if you start a tank with live rock, you're more likely to have success than if you start a tank without live rock. Would you agree?
100%. The reason I look distracted is because I wanted to do a little experiment with regards to how much the carrot. So Carib Sea was just the one that came to mind. They do a 20 pound box, which I had to then Google, which is 9 kilos. And that works out at £11 per kilo, or £11.50 per kilo. And then, well, you'd think so, but there is a Marine Aquatics Limited, and it says it's in stock. It's selling it for £15 a kilo. So £4.50 or £4.50.
I've seen it in a few places. It's not. That's the cheapest I've seen. To be fair, I was trying
to see if I could find a comparison, another one, but it's not a lot of people sell live rock online. I've noticed.
No, it's hard to get hold of, to be fair, but it's normally quite expensive. And the other thing is, even if it's £4 a kilo, that's not that much. If you're buying 100 kilos, that's 400 quid.
Yeah,
and if you've got, and the trouble is when you're buying, especially if you've gone down the route of the thing you said earlier about I need £3 worth of lights. If you spent so much money, there comes a point when you're like, I need to take the edge off. But I think people are more scared of what will come in on live rock when actually you should be embracing that.
I found that anywhere between 15, 16, £17 up to £27. So there's probably a varying quality. Some of it's probably the fresh stuff that's just come over, which is probably the best stuff. And some of it might be.
Yeah. Would you say people are more scared of the price or what you get on it?
I think, look, the price absolutely would definitely come into it. But as far as I'm concerned, if you get away where you don't get any pests, which is not guaranteed, then that is the best money you've spent on your tank. Because the number one thing that gets people to leave this hobby, I think, it's not disease, it's not like maintenance. I think it's when the ugly stage lasts forever.
Yeah,
I really think that's the issue. If you avoid the ugly stage, you are like. So when I first started my tank, I bought someone else's live rock. They shut their tank down. I bought the entire live rock from their tank, moved it into my tank, instant cycle. Never had any ugly diseases or anything like that. It was not diseases, the ugly stage.
Yeah.
When I set up the Red Sea tank, which I thought at the time I was so naive because I was like, and probably similar to everyone else. This was 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago now. Like sterile tank, bacteria in a bottle. Everything was going to be absolutely perfect. I had never had trouble like it. Is the honest. And would I do it? Like, there is not a chance I would start another tank that didn't start with live rock. At least a considerable portion of it. Maybe not all of it, but some.
And when you say live rock, what do you mean?
I'm talking like the fresh stuff.
Wet live rock.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like, look,
yeah.
the best, in my opinion, the best dry rock you can get is live rock that used to be, that has died.
Yeah.
So, but again, that's not easy to get hold of.
Yeah. My rock's dead.
And do I think that rock from someone's tank is considered live rock? It is definitely live, but is it the same as the stuff from the ocean? Probably. Well, definitely not. There'll be all weird critters and bacteria and stuff like that. Most things, well, I will say, most stuff that you get from live rock, you are likely to get eventually anyway. So an Aptasia or you see what I mean?
Yeah.
The only exception that I can think of really is like a mantis shrimp. If you got or a bobbit worm, or you're never going to get a bobbit worm on a coral frag.
No.
What did you say?
Octopus.
Oh, yeah, well, I think that'd be pretty unlikely, but it has happened.
Yeah. Tampa Bay Saltwater. They have, so Ryan, BRS Ryan, Serious Reef Ryan, I should call him. He got an octopus on that. But even to be fair, even with an octopus, they don't live that long. So
there was another YouTuber who got like 8 octopus or something like that. He was, I can't remember what he was doing. He's not a saltwater. He's not like a fish YouTuber. He does something else, and he was using the live rock as filtration for. It was for crabs, actually, is what it was, like these, big mud crabs. And in that, he had, I think it was, I might be wrong, but I think he had multiple octopus and a cone snail, maybe on the cone. Right. So, because I remember he filmed, it was a blue ring octopus, I think it was, and he, as a joke, he filmed putting it in like the steps where people walk into the sea, but he obviously didn't actually do that.
There's just on the point of view of live rock, Reefkeeper says, why worry about Aptasia? Chances are you will introduce it at some point, even with sterile dry rock, which is true. And also relatively easy to deal with. It can be a pain. I think people worry about it too much. Anyway, overall then, Ryan, do you think, having looked at all of this stuff, all the stuff we've talked about, is if you had to say that this video is right or wrong, he's right about most, what would you say? Oh, and 89% of people said live rock used to be better. Overall, then, is he right? Is he wrong? Is he misguided? Is he guided?
You'll have to go back and count how many times I said yes and no. But personally, I think I would lean to the side that he is yes. I would say a lot of the stuff he said was true. I think not all of it, but I think, is that right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Overall. Do you agree with him, or do you not agree with him overall?
Absolutely not on everything, but on some things. There were definitely some points that he made where I felt strongly about them, whereas there were some points that he made where I felt nothing about them. So I would say, I would say, yeah.
So I'm the opposite. Overall, I would say I don't agree. There's definitely some points he made right, but actually overall, I think there's more to it. Or, well, it's not that he's wrong, because it's the way
you watched the video multiple times. I watched it once.
It's true. And it's like, I'm not saying he's wrong, because it's the way he's, like, this is the way he feels based on his experiences. But I'm just saying, what I'm saying is I don't feel the same way on most of it.
I have to go back and watch it now to see if I even agree with myself.
Exactly. And the poll so far, 62% say that he's right, 38% say that he's wrong, so he's winning.
There you go.
But
I do think, as I said, I think there were some really valid points, and the ones that were really valid, overdid the ones that weren't valid, I think, personally.
Yeah, this is true. He was on the money on some stuff for sure, and it was a useful video to make. To be fair, I think it was a useful conversation. I thought it might do. It hasn't done that well in terms of views. I thought it was the sort of thing because people love drama, and it sounds. I actually don't think it is drama, but it sounds like drama. And I thought that video would do better, but it's only done. It's like 10,000 views, which for his channel is about average. Not that special, really, but who knows? Anyway, we've got to move on to the news. I'm not going to dance to the jingle anymore because Ryan tells me off when I do. He criticised my shoes the other day. He was like, "Oh, are they beige?" I was like, beige?
That was like the highlight of my day yesterday. Alex had these really beige shoes on, and he went, "Are they?" I think you said that, something like that. Yeah, I went, "Oh yeah, you can't tell the colour of them, can you?" So,
but even also that hammer coral I get
hurts him.
Yeah, that hammer coral I gave. Yeah. Yes. That camera coral I gave you was a bit beige as well, wasn't it?
Actually, that was really nice. That coral.
Yes. I love it. I'm glad you like it. Yeah,
No,
I
I
love
do.
it. I love it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh,
news. There's quite a lot of news to get through. So we're going to go over the things. So first things first, and we're going to steer clear of politics and that sort of stuff. But the war in Iran, Ryan,
okay.
what are your thoughts on the war in Iran? No, the war in Iran does have impacts on the hobby, unfortunately, and
Yeah.
over the next few weeks, because of just flight paths basically and flight availability. Acquiring availability of fish and corals is going to be a little bit more difficult than it was. It will probably level out and they'll find ways around it, all these sorts of things. But there's going to be a period when it's more difficult for importers to get hold of the corals that they usually do because a lot of the routes are affected.
Yeah.
Are
I
you
also
seeing
wonder
that
if
at
the
all?
price will go up.
Yeah, oh,
Do
blatantly, yeah.
you know what is interesting? Well, I am seeing, has actually happened. There has been a spike in people buying wholesale corals. I spoke to one of the wholesalers. There have been a
Okay.
spike in the shops. You know how people go and the people out there panic buying petrol at the moment.
Yeah.
People are panic buying coral, which I don't know how bad it's going to be. What will be interesting, there will be less flights, which means if there's less flights, that means the cost of shipping stuff goes up because supply and demand. Same as with COVID. I don't know if it will be as bad. And the cost of shipping is the majority of the cost of a box of corals.
Mm.
That's not strictly true, actually. It's not the majority of the cost, but shipping makes a massive difference to the cost of corals. So I'll be interested to know if the corals that come in are going to be more expensive. I don't know if they will or won't, but in theory, they possibly could be.
Maybe I should go and panic buy some coral, actually, just to make sure, because I wouldn't want to be without for a couple of weeks. So, yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like during COVID, corals got more expensive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, because everything goes up when, so this war is likely to, this potentially veering into politics. It's likely to put up oil prices, which means petrol will get more expensive, and when petrol's more expensive, everything is more expensive. So,
yeah.
Anyway, so that is the news on that. Let's hope all wars end soon and we get peace on Earth. Fantastic. Next thing, positive news, Ryan. Would you like to tell us the great news?
About the corals?
Yeah.
So for the first time in, I think it was since 2014, I think it said in the article that
yeah, it was. Yeah.
Acanthophyllia from Indonesia only, not Australia, and Trachyphylia from Indonesia, although we get Trachyphylia from Australia as well, are allowed to be legally imported again. I spoke to this is what the thing I do want to say
to the UK, I should say, by the way.
Yeah, to the UK. Yeah. So I spoke to Brian at TMC, and I'm hopefully he's happy for me to say this. He does more for the hobby than people probably realize.
100%.
Because so what happened was he spoke to CITES a year ago. He did tell me the story. I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly, but this is the gist of it. He spoke to CITES a year ago to go basically why are these corals illegal? And they didn't really know. They said that apparently it's just something that had been inherited and it just kept going.
Yeah, the last one said it was off.
Yeah, and they said, and he said, well, okay, well, how do we go about getting these back into the UK? And they said, oh, it's going to be a long, drawn-out process. And he went, why don't we start it then? It's going to be long, it's going to be a year or 2 years process. Why don't we just start? Because so not a lot of other people are doing that, is what I'll say. There probably are some that I don't know that are doing that, but no, unless someone talks about it, people don't know. So acanthophylias are one of those things that I would say they're on par with like scollies. People love them. I've never had an acanthophylia, not one in my entire life, but people absolutely love them. I can get one now potentially. I think they said it was either 6 or 8 permits, so only 6 or 8 of them came into the country. I know Moss End had one. I think you were there yesterday. Is it still there?
It is. Yep, 500 quid.
Yep. So, which I actually think is not a bad price considering some of them are like 1,000.
You messaged me about this, and I said I guessed how much they were going to be.
Yeah.
And I said $2,000.
Yeah, and we didn't know. And then you went in yesterday, didn't you? And you
Yeah,
went,
they're fine. And that was based on, so the last time I saw them, a long time ago, I don't think it was 12 years ago, because that's when I started the hobby. Maybe 10 years ago, maybe they just still had one, but it was north of 1,000, and cost goes up. So it's very impressive that they're cheap.
Yeah. So I only know of, I think only 2 of them I know of. One of them went to the Moss End is it Derby? No, not, yeah, it's Derby. Reef, no, what's the other one that Ed owns?
Oh, Rugby.
Yeah. Rugby, sorry. Why was it Derby? Rugby and Moss End, I know they both have them. And there's a couple of others that you see on, that I've seen on Facebook. I can't remember what the other one is. I think Finest has one. I think I saw. Yeah, so they are around. But yeah, it's good for the hobby, because we have had a restriction lifted, and it's lifted for the right reasons. They did the studies and they went, yeah, it's not too bad, you can have it.
Yeah,
and that's it.
It's fine. Yeah.
One of the most interesting parts of that conversation, I said, why are America different? Why are they allowed them and we're not allowed them? And the way CITES works, remember, I don't know everything, so if this is not quite right, don't shoot me. There is an export permit from the country they come from, and we require an import permit here. They don't have that in America. There is only an export permit. So if the country will sell it, America will take it. That is how it works.
Yeah, whereas we're a bit more like, oh no, we want to do our own checks.
So for those people who, including myself, who's wondered why that they get everything, it's because there's no checks their side.
There you go. Well, there we go. The only thing I'll say, so the Acanto that I've seen online that they've come in, they're very nice, but I don't want to buy them. So I want, and I'm hoping that as more of these come through.
Oh, you wait till someone tells Ed that you said that.
As more of these come through, because I've seen some amazing Acantos, and this is like, because I've got expensive taste, right? And I'm too fussy or whatever you want to call it, but I want some of the really nice ones, and I would buy one. I don't know. Well, I said I'd buy it. If it's $2,000, I wouldn't. But
I have a feeling that what will probably happen when trackies from Australia first came back, there was a very small selection that first came in, and I don't know. This is just a guess. And they obviously went to the shops, and people bought those. Now trackies are far more readily available. They're like that. I don't know if it's because of how the permits are done. I think what they were saying is that they knew that this decision was potentially coming. So they were applying for CITES permits, and those sort of permits were getting rejected. But they knew eventually one of them was going to be a success. So you're not going to apply for 100 permits every single time to have all. You might just apply for 6 or 8 of them, and then eventually. So I think that's why there's usually a small amount at the beginning, and then as other companies and the process becomes smoother.
Well, there'll be more variety as well, and like coral taste is a weird thing, and I've proven myself when I put myself up for a vote that I have terrible taste in corals. So, yeah, more the better.
The red one is the one that Moss End, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice. Don't get me wrong.
I quite liked it, but I wouldn't have it myself because I don't. As I said, I've never had one. But it was nicer than the green one. I saw another green one, but I can't remember where that was. But
I like the green one. I thought that was nice. Anyway, we're going to move on because we've got more stuff to go and we haven't got much more time left. There's a correction from last week. So that rotating power head that we showed, it's not a power head. It's called the Lamotte Pulse. And it turns out, so it sits in your tank and it just spins around. It looked like a power head that pushes flow into different areas. That's not what it is at all. It's an auto tester, bizarrely. I don't know if it has to go in your tank because it's quite bulky and it's not. I don't think most people would want that. It'd probably be okay, but if you can put it in something, that'd be wicked. But it's slightly funny in that it tests some weird stuff. It tests pH, dissolved oxygen, total ammonia, and calcium. And I think most people, when you're ticking off, what do I want to test in my tank? Some people will be like, pH, yeah, okay. No one cares about total ammonia on an established tank anyway. Or oxygen, I couldn't tell you what my required level is. Calcium, yeah, okay, cool. So, but, it's if you were to say it does calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, nitrate, and phosphate, that's the holy grail. So that's probably unrealistic. But anyway, that's what it is. It's an automatic tester. It runs on it's got like I think it's got like a a slide in it or a card or something, but it tests continuously. I don't know how accurate it is. This feels like a too good to be true sort of thing, that you can just have like a thing in your water that constantly tells you what your calcium is. But if it's accurate, it's cool. And I also don't know what the price is. I would guess it's around $1,000 mark, but there you go. It is not a powerhead. Next news, Jurassic Aquatics, Ryan.
Yeah, I saw that. I always, whenever a shop closes, yeah.
So a shop called Jurassic Aquatics, presumably based in Dorset, has closed.
Yeah. I don't know how long they've been around for, but I think they moved to a different address about a year ago. And then I just saw they didn't give a reason why, but usually the reason is because it gets too expensive to run and there's not enough money in it. So
exactly. So I'm going to look at the filing history on Companies House. When was it established? When was it? It was incorporated on the limited company was, and they might have been running it as something else before that. But the limited company started on the 24th of January 2023. So 3 years ago, roughly. Maybe it was running before then as something else, but it might have been around since around that kind of time. But very sad. It's based in Weymouth, and another fish shop bites the dust. We're going to move on again because we've already run out of time. So sorry to brush up.
Run out of time and Ryan's attention.
Red Sea. So we mentioned last week there was some news that was under embargo, and it's not very exciting. It's different to what I thought, though. The headline was that Red Sea has bought DD, the aquarium solution. Actually, that's not true. What has happened is the company that owns Red Sea, and did you know Red Sea is owned by an English company?
I did not. I didn't even know any of this until you told me.
Exactly, yeah. So I think they're called Cresco Limited. It's private equity, basically. So what has happened is a private equity company that bought Red Sea a few years ago, whenever, I don't know, that wasn't announced, has now bought DD, which is David Saxby's company. So that might mean some prices go up. It will probably mean they get better at marketing. But ultimately, it's private equity, and we've already spent quite a lot of time talking about the virtues thereof.
The only thing I know is that the companies are going to be run separately.
Exactly.
That's the only thing.
And actually, the only thing I will say on that point is, whilst I don't like private equity one little bit, I suspect that nothing will change. So I've talked to a few people, and like there's no plans for anything to change immediately. So in the short term, at the very least, and then maybe the medium term, you won't notice any difference whatsoever. So nothing's gonna move. So
I think it's just about having a different. Red Sea have a very, very true, hardcore fan base where they won't have anything else, and it's just about having a different part of the market, I think, is what it is.
Yeah, there is some crossover though, because DD distribute in the UK, they distribute AI lights. And Red Sea have got Red Sea lights. So do you want competition?
But at one point, Ecotech, or maybe they still do, like Ecotech owned AI. And then they were bought I think both of them were bought by the people who bought BRS, I think. So
this is true. Yeah.
It's just different people have different preference of products. It's like Mars. You buy any chocolate bar, all your money eventually goes back to Mars.
Yeah. But that's not a good thing. Anyway, look, that is the news. Goodbye. And there we go. I'm wrapping up because we've.
I know. I thoroughly enjoyed this live stream. It was a tough one. I'll be honest with you. I found some of it more difficult than others, but I actually enjoyed.
More difficult because it's equipment and it's boring.
No, it's nice to have an opinion on things sometimes, and whether you're right or wrong, and also to hear your opinion. And we definitely didn't agree every time with this. No, and it's just sometimes you can get your teeth into something. But some of the topics could be considered awkward, is what I would say.
Yeah, this is true. And I did that poll to say, is he right about most of it? 60% say yes, 40% say no. Yeah. So, which is probably about right, I think.
I wonder if he will watch this, because the chances are one of the people who follow him will have seen this and will tell him, and then he'll watch it, and then I'll add him to the list. And because he doesn't know what the list is, because he doesn't regularly watch, we have a list of people we upset. We don't intend to upset you.
With this, I would be amazed if he was upset by this, because this has not been a this is not. I'm not criticizing. We've not criticizing. That's not what this is about. I think it was a really valid discussion that was worthwhile having, and we agree with a lot of what he says. So none of this was, and even the stuff that we don't agree with, we're saying, look, we see things differently. It's not that you're wrong. So this was never about that. Anyway, right. We're going to be back next week. We're going to do Ryan's guide on keeping corals next to each other, which you can't wait to do. So
I have to start doing some testing because I don't know the answer. I keep them all apart, don't I?
Well, thanks for joining, guys. It's been a good one, and we'll catch you all later. Bye, guys.
See you later.